Okay. Okay, good. It looks like it's picking up my voice. So hopefully this one will work. I already recorded one that didn't work, and that's not fun. So we're on to our next artist, whose name is Lorenzo Ghiberti. And if you're like, I don't know who that is, you're not alone. Because my husband is an artist, and he's like, who is that? He had not heard of him. I had not. But then once I saw what he had done, I was pretty amazed. So let's take a look. Okay, oops, that's not the beginning. Here he is. Lorenzo Ghiberti, who was one of the first great artists of the Renaissance, of the early Renaissance period. Can talk to the kids about how long ago he lived. Sometimes they think that's amazing. Over 600 years ago, he was doing his thing. His father was a goldsmith, and he spent his life making these bronze doors for the baptistry in Florence. He was an inspiration to Michelangelo, Leonardo da Vinci. Let's look at what he did here. So in 1401, there was this contest to see who was going to make these doors. And who do you think won the contest? You can ask the kids. I mean, they're always like, which one of these is Ghiberti's? Well, his is the one, well, I'm facing it. It's the one on the right. The one right under Ghiberti's name. I mean, they look kind of similar, both very masterful. So he and this other artist, Brunelleschi, who became a great architect, both won, and they're like, hooray, you can make it together, but Brunelleschi didn't like that. So Ghiberti did it himself, kind of. I mean, he had a whole workshop of goldsmiths helping him, but he was the artist behind it all. So as you can see, the sacrifice of Isaac, I don't know if many kids are going to be familiar with that. You just say this is a story from the Bible. He ended up doing one door with stories from the Old Testament of the Bible and one from the New Testament of the Bible. And of course, that's what the artwork was about during the Renaissance. So let's take a look at the doors. So the north doors are this ones. Oh, let's go back here. You can see this outline of the image. It's a quatrefoil. I guess in the pre-Renaissance period, that was a big design. That was in everything. So these north doors that he made first are in that quatrefoil. The images are much smaller and there's much more images. And this one has the images from the New Testament, I believe. And so it took him, I have 21 years down here, but then my dates that I looked up, it looks like 24 years. So I'll double check that. But obviously it took a super long time to do. The other set of doors, the more golden looking ones in this picture, took 27 years to do. And these are images from Old Testament stories. There are only 10 panels on that. But think about it, he did 10 panels and it took 27 years to do them. So almost 3 years a panel is incredible. And when you see the detail on there, you'll see why. So these doors are huge, 17 feet tall, 310s. And Michelangelo, when he saw the second set of doors on the east side of the baptistry, said that they were worthy to stand at the gates of paradise. So they're known as the gates of paradise doors now. And I have this description on the outline of how he made these. And it's pretty complex. You can just kind of sum it up for the kids, but I gave you the whole explanation that I found online. But basically he would make a wax model of each piece of the image and then he would draw it first, then make his like wax sculpture of it, then make a casting so that he could cast it in bronze. Then he'd put all the pieces together and they had to be worked together and polished, and all the little details had to be put on, like the carving and the incising. So when you see the detail here, it's not surprising how long it took, even with all of his assistants. Like basically this is what he did his whole entire life. This is the artwork that he produced. And we talked about some artists that they did like 3,000 paintings. I mean, this was so labor intensive that this was his whole life's work. And you can see just like the folds of the garments on the people. And he was one of the first Renaissance artists to use, to master perspective. So it has this feeling of depth, like we could go through that hallway. And he has, this is the story of Jacob and Esau. The interesting thing is that he chose these major stories from the Bible, and he tried to put every part of the story into one panel. If you're familiar with the stories, then you can see and appreciate that possibly more. We don't really need to go into detail with the kids, but just pointing out that this is like you took one whole story and you put that summary into one panel and made it so that people could read it and appreciate it. Let's see. Oh, and it looks gold. I mean, they're bronze reliefs, called a bronze relief. And it looks gold because he actually did paint it with a mixture of mercury and gold, which is not something we do now because mercury is very poisonous, but he managed to live through that process. So it is painted in gold, and there obviously has been tarnishing over the years, and there have been many efforts to restore them that have been successful. I mean, they're 600 years old. So this story of Joseph is considered to be probably the masterpiece of the 10 panels on the Gates of Paradise. I mean, if you just look at every piece of this had to be drawn, carved, make a cast of it, polished, incised, sculpted. I mean, every single piece. And there's so much detail on this. He managed to get the whole story of Joseph into this panel. I mean, so basically the kids, I mean, they're probably just gonna, I don't even know if they can grasp, like imagine doing a drawing or something that took you 3 years and you worked on it every day and you even had helpers. And I mean, it's just incredible to me what we could accomplish if we were more patient nowadays. But I mean, how are we going to do something like this for art projects? Obviously, we can't do any bronze sculpting, but we'll make something shiny and hopefully it will just remind them of how awesome Ghiberti is. And here is this bald guy sticking out. These are on the border of the Gates of Paradise. That's actually him. He deserved to be in his own artwork, I think. And he did some more sculptures, but basically he didn't have time to do anything else. He basically just made the doors and made maybe 3 or 4 bronze sculptures. And he actually lived to an old age for that time period. He was like 70 something. But 50 plus years of his life, or a little less than 50 years, was spent making these doors. So we're going to do something shiny and fun. Let's see if I can stop sharing this. Okay. We are going to, well, the project that they did 5 or 6 years ago when they did Ghiberti was, they did try to make a quatrefoil, that design that we saw with some string on a piece of cardboard and cover it with foil. I mean, then you had to wait for it to dry, and it also seemed kind of unexciting. So I wanted to be a little more creative, even though this is obviously just, it's not anything like what Ghiberti did, but I mean, how could we do that? We're just appreciating him and then do something that makes us think of him. So we've got more colorful things here. What you're going to do is you're going to have a piece of, this is thin cardboard. So each kid will get one of these. I actually have like 1,000 some of these. So we're not as concerned about mess ups this time because I got plenty. And these pieces of foil, it's in a thing where you just pull out the pieces of foil so you don't have to cut any foil. But it's going to work much better if the kids cut the foil in half. You see there's a crease down the middle. If you cut it that way, it doesn't work as well. You actually want to cut it the opposite way down the middle of the, when you're holding it widthwise, because that gives you 2 bigger pieces. You're going to wrap both pieces on top of each other around. So there's 2 layers of foil because then it's harder to rip it. I'm sure you'll have some kids who rip it. And you just give them a new piece or tell them to not worry about it. Like if there's a tiny little place where the pen went through. But with the 2 layers of foil, much less likely that's going to happen. I had more success with that. So they can glue it on the back, or I just had mine stay pretty well. But we have plenty of glue if they want to glue on the back so that this foil is not moving. Okay. But so they're going to take this. We have a bunch of these foam shapes. I don't know if you've ever seen them. They smell super toxic when you open the cabinet. So I don't know what they're made out of. But they can take these shapes, take as many as they want, make some designs. This is supposed to be a mermaid. I don't know if it really looks like a mermaid. Or just do some random artsy whatever designs. They can make whatever they want with these shapes. They're going to cover it with the 2 layers of foil. Rub the foil down so that press around their shapes so that the shapes are sticking out. So it's like a relief, like Ghiberti made. Then they can color it however they want. We have tons of multicolored Sharpies. We have a bunch of gold Sharpies if they want to make it gold. And there's a bunch of examples in there. Just kind of let your imagination run wild, make something shiny and fun. A lot of them might want to do the gold, like Ghiberti, and we have a bunch of those gold pens. Again, I think there's enough supplies. I don't know how the markers are going to do. So just, I bought what I think is a lot. Let me know if it seems like they're running out so I can buy more. You're just going to mount it on the small paper. No need for the big paper, I think, because they're pretty small. I mean, kids might have time to make 2, and I don't have a problem with that. It's going to make the pens run out quicker. We can see, like, just fill these with color. That's so fun to do the Sharpies on here. I think it'll be fun for them. And they're obviously very permanent, and you don't have to wait long for it to dry, but there is a few minutes where it's still kind of wet. So if they put their hand in it, they could smear it. So just warn them of that. But it dries pretty quick, like 2 minutes. But just there's a few minutes where it's still kind of wet and they have to be careful. So totally fun. Lots of cool Sharpie colors, something they don't get to do every day. And hopefully they'll get a small appreciation for Ghiberti. I wish I could go to Italy and see the doors because it looks totally awesome. Anyways, thank you for all you do. I think it's been going pretty well. The projects are, some of them have been more difficult with the rolling on the last one, but I think that was fun for the kids to do, and hopefully this will be as well. So thank you. Let me know if you have any questions, and you don't have to look at my face anymore. Goodbye.